Welcome. In front of me is an iPhone 12 Pro Max, and today we'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of the device. So obviously this is the box that it comes in, and right off the bat you will probably see that it is fairly thinner than what we're used to. That is because there is no charger in here. So once we pop it open, you can see there's straight up the phone, the charger or the charging cable, and just some paperwork. So nothing really much here, just a big sticker, something that you're used to probably from seeing from computers, and well, lightning to Type-C without any kind of brick. Now, I mentioned this probably in every video, but I don't believe that Apple included a Type-C charger, so their bullcrap excuse for making it eco-friendly is just load of it, because if they didn't include a Type-C charger, then you will have to get it, because the cable that they provide is not going to work with anything that you already have. So now I truly hope that I am wrong, but in case that I'm not, this is just the scummiest thing I have seen, and I do not condone it in this case. So yeah, now that's all we get in the box. As you can see, fairly budget box accessories, to be honest, for a device that costs $1,100. So I just drop that to the side, get the phone itself. Now, as you can see, the version that I have right here is the gold. So I already did go to a setup, as you can see right here. So I just drop that to the side and simply get a look at this absolute unit of a phone. So straight off, you can see the display. The notch is still very there. Can't really do much about it. But the display is, well, one of the biggest that iPhone has to offer. So this is a 6.7-inch display with a resolution of 1284 by 2778. So this is a little bit over the 1080p resolution, but still just a little bit. And when it comes down to it, it's a Super Retina OLED display with an HDR10 certification with 800 nits peaks at 1200 nits. So it can get fairly bright when it needs to for the HDR content. Also has a decent pixels per inch. Like I said, this is a little bit over the 1080p display. So it comes with a fairly above average, I would say, pixels per inch, so 458. Now it still is in that range of just average phones with 1080p resolutions, but most of them average with like 400. This is about 50 more, so like I said, not much, but still just a little bit above everybody else. And when it comes down to screen to body ratio, it has 87.4% screen to body ratio, which seems like it's a lot, so the bezel should be super small, but honestly, when you're holding the device in your hand, you don't really get to see that. Now, I believe the reason why this is so high is because the display itself is just enormous. This thing is an absolute beast right here. Also, the notch itself, because of that, is just a smaller portion of the display itself. They have a way bigger surface to accommodate the same amount of hardware that they do with, for instance, things like the iPhone mini, the 12 one. So it is high, but honestly it still looks dated in my opinion. So no matter what you do, that notch will look dated no matter when you put it in there. So I think it's time to update to a fingerprint sensor. It's one of those technologies that's stuck around, so you can now steal it from everybody and just keep it for yourself, and just make it a little bit better like you always do. So that'll be fine, but just that notch, it's time to go. You had your time, you had your few generations. It's just time to just be gone. But other than that, this disgusting notch, we can move on to the cameras. So if we flip it over, we have a triple camera setup. So all of them are 12 megapixels, and they are basically the highest sensors that Apple has included. but that basically means nothing considering thanks to KBHD that did it. It means nothing because even the 12 mini does as good of a photos as this one does, so not really sure why would you go for this version here. No, well, apart from the size. This, like I said, this is the biggest iPhone that you can get, and the size is the biggest one with the Pro Max. So even if you go for the Pro, it will be significantly smaller than this one, and even further so if you go for the mini version. But outside of that, the photos come out stellar no matter which one you take. And honestly, I don't think if you're going straight for the photo quality here, based from what I've seen, it's not very worth it to go for the more expensive version strictly for the photos, because they come out looking almost the exact same no matter what version you use. So that's just one thing. Now, the single difference that will be between things like the iPhone mini is the 3D LiDAR sensor. So the smallest and most likely the cheapest version of the 12 series doesn't come with LiDAR, and also is lacking I believe it was telephoto lens. So the smallest one only comes with a wide and ultra wide lens. So this one has also the time of flight and telephoto. But if you're just planning to capture normal photos, it won't really matter to you much outside of the how pocketable the phone is, to be honest, because this thing is just huge. Now moving on with the camera quality, it does capture videos with a resolution of 4K at 24, 30 and also 60, so something that we would be expecting here, specifically from a literal top of the line flagship. And at the front we have a 12 megapixel wide, so there's a couple different circles. I can't really get them visible on the camera. I can see the blinking, but that's not the camera obviously. But there is one right here, and it's again, like I said, 12 megapixel wide sensor. Again, it shoots at 4K, 24, 30, 60, and also at 1080p, 30, 60, and 120. Now I didn't mention, but the back sensors also shoot obviously at 1080p, 30, 60, but also you can drop it to slow motion at 120 and 240 if you wanted to. So you can get a nice smooth motion right there. And obviously the cameras right here are, well, top of the line in terms of the quality. What they're not top of the line is the pixel count. They're just 12 megapixels. Now, credit where credit is due. Apple did a really good job at optimizing them. They capture some of the most stellar photos, but when it comes down to it, imagine what they could have done if they included a 64 megapixel lenses or 100 and whatever, I think it's like 106 or 8 megapixels. This would be on a whole new level. Now, obviously, Apple is not the type of person that basically tries to innovate. When they try, they kind of get rid of the things. So their innovation was to get rid of a headphone jack. Their innovation was, they did include a force touch, where you basically press on the display harder and it just detects how hard you're pressing. But yeah, they also got rid of that and just substituted it for a wonky software kind of thing, where you just press it and it does the same thing as before Force Touch did. So obviously that was a hiccup there that probably costing them billions. But like I said, they're not very good at innovating things, and when they do, their innovation is to remove something instead of add something, apparently. For instance, look at the wireless charging. It took them a couple of generations to catch on that, hey, wireless charging is kind of okay, but they're caught on to it so late that it's almost gone by now. So yeah, like I said, going back to the camera subject, which I ventured onward from, they could do so much more if they decided to actually stick with everybody else and, for instance, go for a higher pixel count, or include something interesting like a better zoom camera. So one of those periscope ones that, for instance, Huawei has, but that's not here. So I guess we have to deal with this. So moving on, we're just gonna quickly touch upon the normal specs of it. The device comes with obviously the Apple A14 Bionic chip, the best one at the moment. Also has a 6GB RAM, comparing it to their Mini, which only comes with 4. The rest of them, apart from the Mini, come with 6. So yeah, so like I said, not much you get apart from the size. Size and the battery is primarily the thing that you get with the Pro Max version of this phone. Now, outside of that, you have a couple different versions with storage. So we have 128GB, 250, and 512. Now, obviously, because it's an Apple, we don't have any kind of expandable storage. So what you buy is what you get and nothing more. Well, outside of maybe the cloud storage, if you want to do that. But personally, I'm a bit more of a traditional guy. I prefer to have all my stuff on my phone rather than on the cloud, but that's just my personal taste. I bet there's a lot of people that prefer cloud storage instead of local storage. And apart from that, the battery, one of the biggest, or at least the length of the device, however it lasts on the battery, is one of the best ones. But the battery itself is a 3687 milliamp hours with a 20-watt charging, assuming you have a 20-watt charger, because with the box you only get a cable. And also you have a 15-watt wireless charging. So if you want to use something like, well, this right here, you just slap it on here. If you actually slap it correctly, there we go, and it starts charging. Now obviously I did place it the opposite direction so you couldn't see it, so let me just redo that. And there we go, you can now see it's charging. So it does have a wireless charging at 15 watts. Nothing really stellar right here, just 15 watts honestly. But still better than iPhone Mini, which comes at 12 watts of wireless charging. And that being said, apart from that, nothing else that is new on here. Obviously, if there would be something new, Apple would make this their key part of their show. So just a typical iPhone look right here, as you can see. Power key, volume rockers, just a flip for the silent, SIM tray, just a single SIM, no headphone jack, because I mean obviously they need to sell AirPods. And at the back we have this, I want to call it gold, but let's be real, this is not gold. So like I said, this is the gold version, but the back doesn't look like gold. I mean, this is a white table. Does this look gold to you? Because to me it does not. It looks like coffee that got way too much milk in it. So I wouldn't call that gold really. Honestly, I don't really mind the color. It just seems kind of more like a skin tone rather than actual gold, which is completely opposite of the side, which is so gold that honestly, if you would make the back of it, it probably would look like a bar of gold. Just alone, it kind of seems like one of those cheap plastic paints, to be honest. But that's just personal opinion. I bet probably one of the not very many people. But yeah, it kind of looks like some of those cheap, like I said, plasticky painted gold colors, where just something tries to be gold but isn't really. But honestly, it is fairly vibrant in terms of just the sides, and then super faded when it comes to back. And lastly, obviously, it's a decent device. Apple does have a reputation for actually creating a premium product, even though, in my opinion, their build quality is stellar, but what they include with that price tag is not that great. So the display, okay, but hey, it's just a 60 Hz display. Even their tablets have a higher display refresh rate than this phone. This is supposed to be the top of the line, and it can't even have a high refresh rate display. This thing is huge. Now, it could be because of the battery, but this battery apparently is the best battery, or at least how long the device lasts on this battery is one of the best. So at least give us the option to make it 100 and, for instance, 20 Hertz. I mean, I'm okay charging this phone more often and actually having a higher refresh rate. I prefer that. But no, we don't really get that choice here. So just a 60 Hz for a $1,100 phone. To me, that is just enough said to basically not get this device. But putting this further, it almost doesn't differentiate itself from the lower models at all. The primary aspect of it being better is just the cameras, and like we've seen, or as you can see if you for instance watch camera reviews of it and comparisons between the basically all their lower models right here, so like the 12 Pro or even the 12 mini, the cameras here are all the same almost. Even though they're supposed to be better, the quality cannot be observed whatsoever. So there is no real reason to go for for this beast right here, outside of just the sheer size of it. If you want this, then the size like that, then this is the only option here. But if you want a smaller phone and you're thinking that the cameras are good, so maybe I will go for this, do not. It's just not worth it. If cameras are what you're looking for, you can go probably with the 12 mini and still get basically as good of a photos as you do with this one, and just pay almost, well, let's say 30% less than you actually pay for this one. So yeah, that's basically my overview. Outside of that, I tested things like for instance speakers. So obviously they do sound out stellar, standing. You can, I'm gonna shut up for a second and you can hear it when I'll get it really close to the mic. Now obviously you could hopefully hear this. The speakers here are, in my opinion, one of the best ones I heard on the phone, and this is really nice. It's something that Apple does really well, and it is credit due where credit is due. The speakers here sound amazing, especially if I compare it to my trash phone. So this is what I have, the Huawei, which has a speaker literally in their Type-C port. Alright, the phone doesn't actually have a Type-C, I should mention that. But yeah, they sound outstanding. There's actually depth and bass to it that I didn't expect phones to actually have, and that did come as a actual surprise to me, because I never really cared about speakers, but this is really good. So yeah, that being said, at the end of the day, like I said before, if you're planning to get this phone strictly for the cameras, don't. If you're planning to get it because of the size of the phone itself, this is, well, probably a better reasoning for getting this phone. And if you're not even in the ecosystem and you're just kind of like thinking about getting it, I would probably discourage it. That's just my personal opinion. And probably you'll care about that opinion, assuming you're not in the ecosystem. But if you already are in it and have things like, well, for instance, laptops, their speakers, and then everything will work just so much better if you add more to it. So if you got speaker, a laptop, you drop a phone to it as well, it will increase the effect of those appliances even further, and making them communicate between each other like you couldn't before. So in this case, I would say it is worth it. Not specifically this version of it, but just the iPhone itself. And personally, if I would have to pick one for myself, I would probably go with just a 12 or 12 mini. For some reason, I'm really liking the 12 mini, even though it's technically the worst option that they have to offer. The size of it is something fresh, because every phone in the recent years has been just this huge slab. Like this one, for instance, maybe a little bit smaller, but still the mini is just a tiny device that is really easily pocketable. You can fit it anywhere. You don't actually feel like it's there, and it's just something fresh. I don't really need to feel like I have a laptop display on my phone, and I don't need to do work on it. So such a huge device to me is useless, and I would prefer something smaller. But that is, like I said, my personal opinion. Now, what you would prefer, it's completely up to you, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. So If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.